All right, greetings from the dark continent. Conscious Caracal here, Adams van Zyl, here to shine a light on the goings on down south. And tonight, I don't have a guest. Tonight, it's just going to be another solo stream where I take some of your questions, interact a little bit more with the chat than usual, and discuss a topic that I have been thinking about this week, or a topic that's been at the back of my mind for a while. So I hope you're ready for an interesting conversation. I'm ready also to answer your questions and to make you part of the content as your contributions flow in there on the live chat panel. So I think the best way to do a little introduction for tonight's topic would be a quote that I coincidentally came across today by Alexander Solzhenitsyn, the dissident Soviet writer. And he wrote that which is against communism is for humanity. Not to accept, to reject this inhuman communist ideology is simply to be a human being. It isn't being it isn't being a member of a party. So there's something important captured within that quote. And the fact is, if you're going to change the world, or if you're going to fight the encroachment of evil, or fight the encroachment of all these evil ideologies around us, the first step is not to become part of a political party. The first step is to live in a way that is in opposition to what is that evil that is encroaching into your life and the lives of others. I see Christoph Smith says, los nou maar 'n flip en tab oop, want net want not 'n moer mis ek nog 'n live stream. Ja, Christoph, ek bly jy's in die huis vanaand. Arden Parday says, hail from Newfoundland. Hendo says, good evening, everyone. Wungel says, ook gedonk, skablonk, my brothers. Ek het definitief nie daai reg uitgespreek nie. Zulu Warrior Princess says, thanks for plugging me with the link to the stream on Twitter, bro. Well, thank you very much for tuning in. All right, and White Student Transmission says, good morning from America. And I know a lot of people are going to be trickling in as the chat continues. So Christoph Smith also says, Naand Carols, Naand Christoph, ek's bly om te sien jy is in die regstreekse kommentaar afdeling. So now that quote has established a little bit about what we're talking about, I'd just like to also say, I know I'm talking, as you can judge by the title of tonight's stream, I'm going to be talking about real world experiences and not getting stuck online or being chronically online. And I know I'm using the medium of an online stream to convey this idea, but I think maybe I just need to get out of the way. I mean, there's not, you don't have to wait till the end for this conclusion. I don't advocate not using social media or not to enjoy online or virtual spaces. For me, it comes down to the real world experiences need to take precedent over online and virtual experiences. When it's the other way around, things start getting messy, things start getting dark. The best example would be just a simple scenario where you have the option to either spend your Saturday online or you have been invited by your friends to go on a hike and you choose to spend your day online. That would be the wrong path from what I've seen and what I've experienced. And that's what I'm going to be getting into here tonight. And tonight's conversation, or this discussion stream, was actually inspired by a real world conversation that I had with friends over the weekend. So I met up with two friends that I know very well, and we went to a pub here close to where I live. And we just talked. One of the topics that really stood out during our long conversation on our long chill session was the topic of real world experiences. We talked about how even though technology today gives you the option and the ability to enjoy a music concert in the comfort of your own living room, where the speakers in your living room, the 4K 8 mega HD TV against the wall gives you the opportunity and ability to enjoy an image more clear than you would probably experience at the concert. If it's a big concert, you're probably going to be way back, not close to the stage, but the cameras are going to be close to the stage. So if you're sitting in your living room on your television, it's going to be like you're there. That's how it's sold to you. And the sound in person is not going to be able to really match the crispness of it coming through the bass boosted speakers, bringing that high quality sound to you. But, and here's the crux, people still choose to go to that concert and still choose to pay a lot more than they would have paid for the virtual experience of sitting in the living room attending the the concert virtually. They rather pay hundreds, if not thousands, of currency to go attend it in person, to go stand there in the crowd, to drive all the way there, to spend the entire day there, and not get the quality experience relatively that they would have gotten if they stayed at home. And the question then is why? And the question is because technology and the virtual world can never replace the real thing. It can never replace the in-person experience. And it's funny that this topic that I'm talking about or discussing tonight actually was inspired by a real world experience that could have easily been replicated through technology and a virtual space. So, me and my friends that went out for a beer over the weekend, we could have easily sat at home, didn't have to drive. I mean, petrol is expensive. Could have sat at home with a beer on Zoom or Microsoft Teams or whatever virtual program you're using, and had the same exact chat. We would have talked about the same things. We would have still had our beers. The only difference would be it would not be in person. But we chose to do the harder thing. We chose to go through the hassle of leaving, getting dressed, taking a shower, driving, and having the in-person experience. And it gets down again to that question, but why do people prefer the in-person experience? Because that's the real thing. The experience that technology makes possible is not the real thing. The conversation or the discussion that we're having here tonight is something that would not be possible without technology. So I'm not going to knock it. I'm not going to ditch, like I said earlier, technology and social media altogether. But if I have the option between speaking to my friend over video and speaking to my friend in person, I'm going to choose the in-person experience because it can't be replicated. You might say, well, the virtual experience is very close to the real thing, but you have to consider that firstly, if you're talking over a screen, you're not seeing the person in front of you. You're not seeing the entire body. You're just seeing a fraction of them being replicated by pixels on the screen. So it's not them in person, in their presence. The voice that you're hearing is a mechanical replication of their voice. It's not their real voice that you're hearing. Many of the little subtle hand gestures, body language, small little things, minute facial micro expressions that you miss over the screen, you would have picked up on in person. So it's definitely something that I wanted to talk about, seeing as I think it's very important. I see Ardent Party says, could you repeat Christoph's comment only slower? Well, if you're Flemish, you'll definitely be able to, or Dutch, you'll be able to understand it if I repeat it slowly, I reckon. Let's see. Ardent Party also says there's a great quote from one of my favorite films, The Boondock Saints: the only thing required for evil to flourish is for good men to do nothing. Yes, but then the question arises what they need to do. Something else that my father always said is that it's better to do nothing than to do something stupid. So it's not always the best to just say, well, we need to do something. Sometimes that something could be something stupid and you're going to end up in a worse place than you were. So that's something that also needs to be taken into account, is that, and I think it was MP van Wyk Lowe in Liberale Nationalisme. He also writes about the false god of the deed or the false god of the act, where people get so swept up by the logic of someone just needs to do something, and then someone does something, and then it's something horrible. But that's what we need to be careful for. It's not always just about doing something, it's about doing the right thing. Ardent also says, I went hiking today, hunting material for woodworking, didn't get anything but a sunburn and a higher heart rate. Works for me. That's excellent. That's what we're going to get into later in this chat. So I'm glad that you mentioned that. Sideliner opinion says, imagine only having a virtual girlfriend. Yeah, well, that's the modern hell that we live in. A lot of people don't even have to imagine it. It's their reality. Let's see. I actually fell behind a little bit now of the chat. Sideline opinion says, hi to all the CC fans around the globe. Dagbreker says, how's it, Adams? Meta cheers. Meta cheers. Sharon says, of eerder moet ek sê, Sharon sê, baie dankie, ek waardeer u insette, geweldig. Wel, dankie Sharon, jy hoef regtig nie vir my u te noem nie. Jy kan maar net sê jy, maar ek waardeer dit, baie dankie. Zulu Warrior Princess asks, how does one go about making friends with people who share somewhat similar beliefs as you? I've changed so much over the past 2 years, but I'm now the odd one out among many of my friends. Well, that is one of the difficult things. But I think something to keep in mind is the fact that if you're sitting alone in your room or just chronically online, you're not going to make those friends in real life. It's that age-old advice when it comes to relationships as well. If you're not putting yourself out there, you're not going to meet anyone. So when it comes to friendships, if your friends aren't being malicious towards you, if they're not lying to you or discriminating against you or treating you badly based on your political beliefs, there's no reason why you shouldn't be friends with them. You can be very good friends with people that disagree with you on a myriad of things. If they disagree with you on fundamental moral things, then it gets difficult. But on simple political things, it's not a problem. Crystal Smith says, so discussion stream, bring in Bri when? Maybe one day I'll organize that. Years is in the chat. Good evening or good morning. I think it's good morning in your part of the world now. Thank you very much for tuning in. Sideliner opinion says, body language represents 60 to 70% of human communication. Yeah, well, that's, I don't find that hard to believe. Reinier de Toy says, goeienaand Erns en Endo. Goeienaand Reinier. Lekker om vir jou te sien. I'm almost caught up now of the chat and then I can continue. Ardent Party says, yes, swift action in a crisis is necessary, controlled and well thought out action in other cases. Depends. I know a crisis often doesn't give you the luxury of thinking through your actions, but at the same time, if you have even a shred of time, you should always use it to think over what you're going to do. Don't just always shoot from the hip if you don't have to. I think that's the better way to put it. Let's see. All right. So let's continue with what I wanted to talk about tonight. So the YouTuber, The Prudentialist, whose content I really enjoy, made a comment a while back where he said that reality is our ally, while parasocial relationships and living in the is the ally of the left. And I want to add to that by saying that living in a pod and being chronically online is also the left's ally. But a lot of people, when they post the meme of I will not live in the pod, are already living in a pod. They just don't know it, or they don't look at it that way. If you're spending your entire day sitting in your apartment or in your house and not going out and not having experiences outside, you're just living in a luxury pod. Living in the pod is not living in a literal like pill-shaped container. It can be just your apartment where you're sitting all day, being chronically online. That's also not good. You have to get out there. You have to get that vitamin D. You have to get some fresh air. You have to get some sun. And it's so strange to repeat this. I mean, this is not a new idea on my channel, but as I've said in the past, sometimes we live in a time where these basic truths just need to be repeated again, even though for some people it's preaching to the converted. we live in a time where these basic truths that 99% of people for the vast majority of history knew were true, and just now we've started destroying them and started not teaching them to our children and the next generation. So it is important to repeat many of these things, even though a lot of you already know them to be true. Years says, let's see. I don't want to miss anything, because the whole thing about discussion streams is I actually talk with the chat. I focus a bit more on the chat, even though I try to focus as much, even when I have a guest. Yes, says, yes, exactly. I don't think our people are meant to live that way. We have to work the land, build communities, have big families, and build culture with others. Absolutely. You have to get out there. You have to be active. You have to be doing something, building something, planting something. That's what I talked about in length on my streamer, Build, Plant, Create. Then you're living out your nature. And the closer you live according to your human nature, the happier you'll be and the more at peace you'll be. The modern world forces us to live in disunity with our nature. It forces us to try and live outside of our nature. As uh, as Albert Camus said, man is the only animal that refuses to be what he is. And that's unfortunately modern man. So I think the more you are just what you are, the happier and more content you'll be. Bola Kernan says being part of a community is everything. Well, living in a living as a social being, again, is living out your human nature. Humans aren't meant to be atomized individuals. Humans aren't meant to live individually. Humans are meant to share the world and our experiences with others around us. The Freighter Watch, it says, I was on a live stream panel a while back where there was a man who had a female anime avatar. I asked why he had that. He told me it was his girlfriend. He had a whole life bio for it. And I pointed out how I thought it was sad. He acted as if it was a cartoon, as a real person. He was not in a relationship. He got extremely offended that I wouldn't humor his delusions, and he insisted he had a deep connection to this avatar. It's a modern horror story. That's unfortunately what you're describing there. It's us living long enough to see man-made horrors beyond our comprehension. It's not natural. It's not natural to have not even going as far as having a relationship with a fictional character. It's not natural to have a relationship with a streamer or with a YouTube personality that you don't know personally. I mean, this might sound counterintuitive. Like, I enjoy doing these streams and getting your inputs and getting your comments and responding, but you shouldn't view me as your friend. You shouldn't view me as someone that's a close friend in your life. I'm not that if you don't know me in person. And don't turn online influencers into your parasocial friends. You need to have real life friendships and relationships, people that you can talk to in their presence. um it's the strangest thing. I see Vingel says, no, I thought we were friends. Just kidding. Yeah, no, I mean, you joke, but unfortunately, like I said earlier, sometimes these basic truths need to be pointed out, where a lot of people don't view it that way. Millions of people today trick their minds into thinking that that YouTuber that they like or that streamer that they like is their friend, like is a worthy replacement for a real life friend or a real life family member. And it's not true. That doesn't mean you can't build very genuine, healthy relationships with people that you meet online. I mean, you can, in the sense of chatting to people that have the same interests as you, that maybe live in another country or look on the other side of the world. That's excellent. I have many friends online that I chat to in other countries, but that can't ever be a replacement for people in real life and people that you can spend time in their presence with. And that's very important. That's why I wanted to make that point. And unfortunately, it's not a point that I hear a lot of people making. But then again, if I have to be very cynical about it, it doesn't really serve the interests of online influencers and personalities to tell their listeners or their subscribers that. It is actually in the interest of an online influencer or personality to have their subscribers or listeners or followers have as intimate think their relationship with that creator is as intimate as possible, because then they will treat them as a friend, and they will be loyal to on a different level in regards to being a subscriber or follower or whatever of that person. And that's what I want to try to avoid. I would never want to be in that place where I'm trying to exploit lonely people, or exploiting people that are in that position because of the messed up societies that we live in today. And that's why, like I said, it sounds strange for me to say something like "I'm not your friend." It sounds very cold and very cruel, but it is something, unfortunately, that needs to be said. People need to understand that parasocial relationships are not is not the future we want. It's not the future we need to build. We need to build a future where real life relationships are what counts and what takes precedence. But yeah, it's like I said, I just wish more people would point it out. But like I said earlier, unfortunately, if you look at it very cynically, it's not in there in many influencers' interest to point that out, because it breaks the illusion. Paula says you're absolutely right, Arons, but it does have a place. Streams like this kept me going through that awful lockdown. Absolutely. I mean, that, like I said earlier, that doesn't mean you should not enjoy content that you enjoy. It doesn't mean you should turn off and delete all your social media accounts. It just means that you shouldn't neglect the real world for the sake of your online experience or spaces. Enjoy online and virtual spaces. I mean, it's a marvel of today's technology that you can enjoy the online and virtual spaces, and you can have interesting, fascinating conversations with people that just a few years ago it would be impossible. But at the same time, don't escape into that reality. It's not the real world. It's the Matrix. So just be careful. Yeah, man. Yeah, you guys are really funny. Ardent Party says, agreed. I love chatting with my stream chat, but you're right that some get too involved. Parasocial or pseudo social delusions of intimacy have been a problem since television's early days, at least. Yes, there's a section in Ian Curtis's Hypernormalization, the documentary, where he covers when the first chatbots were invented, like decades ago. People got so addicted to them, they just sat in their rooms the entire day speaking to these chatbots, and they sometimes forgot to eat or drink and got into very, very bad situations health-wise because of it. But they were so desperate in these modern times for companionship. Even something that's so clunky as a chatbot was enough to at least give them that little bit of satisfaction. And it's really sad. Like I said, it's a modern horror story. It's a modern tragedy. It's not the question, is it a comedy or a tragedy? Is it a horror or a tragedy? That's the question. Sharon says, I sometimes wonder if people understand how monumental the changes this world is going through, actually. Yeah, that's Zulu Warrior Princess says, I can talk for hours with people face to face. It's just not the same online. Absolutely. Absolutely. That's why I try to encourage it as much as you can. You're absolutely right, Vingle. I got my wires crossed a little bit there. Ian Curtis was Joy Division. Yeah, I mean, Adam Curtis, the documentary maker. Yeah, thank you very much. That's absolutely right. Yeah, like I said, a little bit of crossed wires there. So what I also wanted to, and I'm getting back on track here. Yeah, I got to that. And I'm now just going to talk a little bit from my own experience when it comes to real world experiences, and that is when you struggle, when you, for example, actually the best example of what I'm about to say was actually already, the foundation was already laid out here in the beginning by Ardent Party, ironically. So he said, I went hiking today, hunting material for woodworking, didn't get anything but a sunburn and a higher heart rate. Works for me. But that links up to my point that I want to make now. that sunburn that you got, that tiredness, that your aching muscles that you got after that day, that's also part of the joy. That, I mean, I can only speak from my own experience, but there's few things as nice for me as climbing in bed after a day of hard work, or like going on a hike or going to the beach or doing something outside, that either where I got a sunburn or where I uh, got very tired, or I walked very far or did a lot of work. And I just lie in bed and I feel my muscles aching, but in a good way, or I feel like tired, but in a good way. It's very few things bring me as much joy as that feeling, where you had a hard day, but not, you had a hard day in a good way. It's a tiring day, a tired day spent on the beach, or a day spent climbing a mountain, or a day spent hiking, or a day spent doing something outside, working in the garden. And then you just, at night, you just lie in bed and you feel very nice. You feel just relaxed, but you feel that aching in the background of your muscles, and you feel tired. It sounds counterintuitive. It sounds like jumbo shrimp or dry ice, cold sweat, but good tired after a good struggle. eh, I like it. It really, it's a very nice state of being. But that's what you described there. Even though you went for a hike, you and got sunburned, you still feel nice. All right. Let's see here. Years says, I use my channel and my network with other content creators to organize meetups where we discuss building communities together. Someone met at a meeting is buying land near my family's land. That's excellent. That's the thing. The online, the internet is an amazing tool that you absolutely should use. It makes a lot of things possible. It makes this conversation possible. But yeah, at the same time, don't overdo it. Always be self-aware. Nikki Davey says, the problem of society is the disconnect with nature. The more time you spend in nature, the more peace and clarity you'll receive. Absolutely. There are two places where, actually three. There are three scenarios or places where I've gotten the clearest, most profound ideas that I later incorporated into my writing or into my streams. The first place is walking and spending time in nature. That's where I get a lot of inspiration and clear thoughts for poetry, writing, just organizing my thoughts. The other place is the gym. Very funny. I don't know. It's something about, maybe it's blood circulation being increased, but I've thought of so many cool ideas and arguments and perspectives while I'm gymming, pumping iron. but but yeah, that's the second place. And thirdly, in conversation with people, like for example, this stream was inspired by a conversation I had in real life with people in person. So those three places are where I get many of my ideas. And I see. Well, I didn't even see this chat, this comment before I talked about the gym. White Student Transmission says, for me, I noticed improvements in thinking ability when I get out, get the blood pumping like an hikes. I'm sure there's evidence that just something that gets your blood pumping and your heart racing increases cognitive ability or gets your thoughts going. I'm sure about that because I've experienced it in real life. Okay. The Afraid to Watch It says barefoot all day. Sometimes I don't wear shoes for 3 days. Well, it's been common knowledge in my family for a long time that wearing shoes constantly makes you sick. That's just something that's just a little bit of ancestral knowledge that's always been in my family. Paula says exercising is a form of meditation. Yes, absolutely. Sharon says, how do we contribute to your channel? At the moment, there's not really any way you can contribute financially. Like I said on previous stream, I'm not turning on super chats until they actually serve a purpose. At the moment, I read most of the chats in chat, so I don't need a function to highlight anyone. So it feels a bit unfair when people give money and their chat is highlighted, but I read everyone's chats anyway. So maybe one day, if my channel grows and my chat gets too busy and I can't get to all the questions and all the posters in the chat, then I'll activate super chats again just for that function, so you get value for your money. But how do you contribute? You can just share it with your friends and family. Share my channel and my content with people online on social media, with people in real life. That's how you can contribute. I really appreciate it. Pietra Meiburg says my nickname as a child was Piet Willikies and still is. That should explain it all. Yeah. Ardent Party says exercise lowers stress, writes depression. With those off your mind, your cognitive faculties are freed up to focus on other things. Oh, well, that makes sense. Sideliner Opinion says barefoot, a great feeling and a great habit. Absolutely. White Student Transmission asks, what are the most effective institutions and SA I can support from America? I would say AfriForum, who I work for, a civil rights organization doing amazing work, part of the Solidariteit movement. You can support AfriForum if you live abroad by going to Friends of AfriForum. Just Google Friends of AfriForum and you can become a supporter. If you live in South Africa, you can become a member of AfriForum if you're not already. You can go to AfriForum's website at www.afriforum.co.za and just click on join. You can become a member there and support state-proof solutions in South Africa. Oh yeah, Hendo is shilling the Telegram channel. Thank you very much, Hendo. If you want to get updates on when I go live and just other interesting stuff, you can go to my Telegram channel there. There's a link in the description, or you can just go to the link on the screen. Christoph Smith says, I chased a burglar down a street last week. Really got the blood pumping, really inspired me. Well, only in South Africa where you hear stories like that. I'm glad you're okay. And based. Dagbreker says it's true to maintain cognitive ability as you age. Physical activity is shown to be the best contributor, something with mind and special awareness. Yes. Yes says I often walk without shoes outside when weather allows. It does feel good, and I hate wearing shoes in general. Yeah, I mean, I wore shoes for the first time like for a long period of time when I was 7 years old, when I went to school and I was forced to wear shoes. And I got blisters on my feet because of the shoes. So I didn't wear shoes for like 7 years of my life when I grew up. Sharon says I wouldn't send a highlighted message. Well, yeah, that's fine. All right, I think I'm caught up with most of the chat now. All right, some other things I wanted to get to. So yeah, for example, this weekend I spent time with my friends in real life. Like I said earlier, the conversation that inspired this stream. And then I also worked in the garden. My girlfriend really wanted to plant some flowers for spring. So I helped the garden was full of other plants that we moved. So we moved them into pots, and I just plowed the garden a little bit to make it a nice open bed for her flower seeds. So that's what we're going to be planting this weekend. But yeah, it was nice. My body was aching after the day because I spent the entire day just tilling the soil with very small tools. But yeah, it was nice. And that's also a cool thing. I think many of my regular subscribers will know I've done a stream on my vegetable garden as well. Just growing your own food is one thing. It's very nice. But then making your own food is also a great real life activity. So I know a lot of people don't have time. I know a lot of people order a lot of food that gets delivered to their place. Right? It's a nice convenience. But if you have the opportunity, you really should start making your own food from time to time, even if it's something simple. You don't have to be a 5-star chef. It's just a nice thing to do. Again, a real world experience where you're spending time doing something and improving in something. I mean, I couldn't make food when I started off just after high school, and I went off to university, living on having to start making my own food. I didn't know how to do that. But nowadays, I know how to make many dishes and very nice dishes. It's something you build up over time, like a little database. And it's a nice skill to have. So that's another way, I think, to participate in the real world and to rebel against the evil out there. There are many ways to rebel, as I mentioned. Maybe I'll get to it at the end of the stream. I'm just going to make a note for myself here as a summary. So that's another way, is to just make your own food. Don't rely on delivery services or Uber Eats or whatever to deliver food for you, or just eat fast food. Make some of your own food, even if it's something simple. Um, yeah, and I wanted to also touch on, I see Karel van Rooyen says, I love hiking, done a few trails, mostly on my own. It's self-finding experience, to experience. That's the reality. Absolutely. That's the theme of tonight's stream. Vingle says, I think it's extremely weird that some countries wear shoes inside. Yeah, no, definitely. Mark Mayberg says weeds are only undesirable plants for a grower. Sharon says, so removed all flowers and plants, just veggies. I have 2 acres now. It's a veggie farm. Nice, nice. Ardent Party gives some great advice. Make your own food and avoid anything over processed. Bologna, plant-based meats for health. Absolutely. I try to avoid as many processed foods as possible. And I think it's contributing a lot to my health. I really don't get sick that often. Touch wood. But yeah. Another thing is, I touched on this a little bit earlier, but maybe to just elaborate a bit more. The human experience is struggle. The human experience is sunburns, aching muscles, scabs, paper cuts, bigger cuts. That's the human experience. It's going to make you feel fulfilled. It's going to make you feel. I just got distracted here by Vingles' bookshelf made of actual wood based. Well, I've got a nicer one behind the camera. So this is the one I have, and then there's another one just in front of the camera that's actually made out of wood from my father's old pigeon coop. So my father used to race pigeons as a hobby. And when he downscaled on his pigeon racing coops, he gave me some of the wood from inside one of the pigeon coops, and I turned it into a bookcase. Sanded it down and varnished it, and now it's here, but it's on the other side, so you can't see it here. All right, but yeah, I see a morning shots in the chat. Goeienaand, meneer. Goeienaand, Roman. Nice to see you here. Also a great show on YouTube from the South African sphere. If you want to go check it out. It's more news analysis, but also a lot of documentary content. I recommend it. Nick Muller makes an interesting point. He says, Sharon, we need flowers actually for the bees. That's also important. I mean, the flowers also serve an important purpose, so don't knock flowers. And then Sideline Opinion says, most fishermen think they love fishing, but what they really enjoy is being close to nature while trying to catch a fish. That's as a fisherman myself, that nothing can be closer to the truth. It is that nature experience, is being close to nature, but the nice bonus of catching a fish, and I know my friend, the prudentialist, would agree. I'm going to try this. Viljaneman says, I started learning guitar a couple of years ago, and it also feels therapeutic when there's a consistency in practice. Otherwise, you just get frustrated. Yeah, that's a good point. Rick says, goeienaand meneer. Lekker om vir jou te sien in die chat. The Freighter Watcher wants to barbecue again. All right. So anyway, what I was saying before I got distracted by that comment, the human experience is struggle. It is all those little inconveniences. I mean, trust me, that's what it's all about. If you just get everything on a silver platter, if your entire life was just a dopamine hit into your bloodstream directly, mainlining dopamine, and you're hooked up to a dopamine machine, that's not living. That's not happiness. That's That's your lizard brain. That's just satisfying your appetites. But being happy does not come from satisfying your appetites. Being happy comes from living a meaningful life that you're proud of, and a life where you enrich the lives of other people around you. Uh, a good way to demonstrate how the struggle is actually what it's all about is, I think anyone here that's been camping, you know that if you go camping, the food that you make tastes better than any type of food you can have in a 5-star restaurant. That food that you make while camping is the best food in the world, but it's because it's the context that makes it so nice. It's the struggle that is accompanied with it. It's the little things that make it so nice, and that make it so great. Morning Shot says we can actively suffer today by choice or suffer passively in the future. Yes, that's the other thing is great civilizations are those ones where old men plant trees that they know they will never sit under. But yeah, that's the thing when it comes to the ways to rebel. So I wanted to get to that part. The ways to rebel against the evils of the world and all these things that are threatening our future, all the things that are ugly in the world, all the things that are evil and horrible in the world, all the wicked people and wicked ideas in the world. The best way to rebel against it is not to join a political party or just to vote harder. The best way and the only way to really effectively rebel against it is to live in a way that is an antithesis to that evil, to live in a way that is an affront and an insult to evil, to live in the way that they don't want you to live. That is how you effectively rebel. Your life needs to be an active rebellion. It's actually an idea that you get in Christianity as well, where you're not a Christian through telling people that you're a Christian. You're a Christian through other people seeing it in your actions and in your life. And I want to make that point is that it's telling people online that you're based and how based you are and how you're changing the world is not going to do anything. You have to live that way. You have to bring about that change, even if nobody knew what your ideology or your worldview was, they will see it through your actions. So the ways to rebel against an evil world is to live beautifully, to live virtuously, to live full stop. That's the way to be human. We're living in an anti-human world. We're living in a world that hates humanity and everything that makes us human, everything that makes us who we are. We're living in a world that hates it so much that they want to actively try to change our nature. They want to do it through technology and surgery and everything that's the modern world gives us, but it's never going to work. We will always be what we are. As Albert Camus said, humanity is the only animal that refuses to be what it is. But we need to be what we are. That's how you rebel. That's how you effectively build a resistance. That's how you resist what's going on around you. Not by just voting for the right party, not just by posting the most based things online, but by living bastely, by living humanly, by living beautifully and living virtuously. That's what's important, but it's difficult. But there's small things that you can do to live virtuously, non-political things. That's actually the other important point. You don't have to be politically active to change your community and the society around you. You can actually completely be apolitical and still through your actions make a difference, a real difference, rather than just voting. The ways in which you rebel are through, firstly, here's some examples. Prioritizing real world relationships and conversations and socializing over online relationships and socializing. Real world relationships, not parasocial relationships. Secondly, making your own food. I'm not talking about being self-sufficient, although that's also good. I'm about maybe stop just ordering fast food that's delivered to your house and make a dish. Try to attempt a recipe for once. Make some of your own food. That's another way that you can rebel against the world in a non-political way, but in a real way. Go outside, go get a sunburn, go work in the garden, go do something physical outside where in the evening when you climb in bed your muscles are aching. Go to the gym, go pick up something heavy. Go chop down a tree, go paint a house, go do something physical outside in the sun, in the fresh air. Even better if you're doing it with other people. Spend time in nature is another way where you rebel against the world, an ugly world. Don't live in the pod. Don't live in the virtual world. Don't escape into fantasy worlds. Go live in the real world. Go hike. Even it doesn't have to be the Alps that you're hiking. Just go to the local park is the simplest example. Go walk in nature where it's possible. Go visit a nice place in a little bit outside of the city if you live in the city. These are all the ways that you meaningfully rebel, and they all, as you can see, exclude all these political solutions that a lot of people propose. You can make a difference by just living virtuously, living humanly. 900T16 says, "Hello, CC. Hope you're doing well. I'll catch the stream after the farm chores. All the best to you and yours." Absolutely. There's another example. If you see, let's say you love my content, if you see I'm live, but there's something in the real world that you should rather be doing, like chores, like 900T16 here, go do that. Don't watch the stream. You can watch that on another day and another time. Do the things that you need to prioritize in the real world first. So that's, I'm going to use your comments as an example. Sideline opinion says ordinary food is always good enough in good company with some tasty wine. Yes, and that tasty wine doesn't have to be a 2,000 Rand bottle. There's some very good cheaper options as well that are absolutely fantastic. I mean, a good bottle of Tassenberg never hurt anyone. Wolf Trap's another good one. Nikki Davey says, my motto, be the example you want to see in the world. Yes. Don't just talk, be the example. Deborah says, anyone want to paint a house? I have one for you. Yeah, I'll never forget the first time I visited Urania in 2011, about 11 years ago. I remember distinctly there was an old lady living in a house that was falling apart, and the entire community came together to fix her house for her in a day. And I actually have pictures of that still. It made a very big impression on the young me. Dagbreker says, first rule of outside club, go outside. That's actually a very, very nice way to put it. I'll remember that one. Yeah, first rule of outside club, don't post about it online, go do the thing. Rico says, jy maak ons honger ergens. Ek's jammer. Ek het ook nog nie vanaand, ek moet nog vir my aandete maak. Christoph Smith, CC, I'm not your friend. Also, CC, don't watch the stream. Yeah, well, yes, just yes. Yeah, it's weird. Not a lot of people are saying what I'm saying, not a lot of creators, but I mean, I'm sticking with it. Rick says, I want to diet. You're torturing me. Yes, says, I'm going to say it out earlier. Some things I need to tend to. Yes, go tend to those things. Have a lovely week, everyone. Keep your heart and speak the truth. Absolutely. Thank you very much. Henk Klopper asks, how's it going with the non-smoking, Ernst? I am clean for almost 9 months now. Stopped, like I said, I announced I stopped smoking at the end of last year, 2021. And yeah, now it's almost September, almost 9 months now. Thank you for asking. Right. All right. So, yeah, that's what I wanted to touch on today. When it comes to rebelling against the world around you, a lot of people, a lot of content creators, just focus on what political solutions are there. I want to focus a little bit on some of the non-political solutions, things that you can do, but that the most people are just too lazy or unmotivated to do. And you can start doing it in small ways. Mark, I'm assuming that you're saying 27 months since you stopped smoking. If that's true, major respect. All right. Um, Before we say goodbye, I would just like to again thank the sponsor of today's episode, and they've been a sponsor for a very long time, and I really appreciate it. And that is a Bitvice, South African company. If you're South African, their services will definitely be able to help you if you are interested in Bitcoin and crypto. So, Bitvice. Uh, Bitvice is a South African first Bitcoin only self custody solution that helps individuals and entities buy and hold Bitcoin for the long term. Bitcoin is the complete hedge against the global debasement of money, inflation, and government overreach. And Bitvice believes that everyone should hold their own Bitcoin and trust no one else. Recently, there have been a plethora of crypto custodians going bankrupt, taking their clients' Bitcoin with them. That is why Bitvice never holds your Bitcoin. They send it immediately to your own Bitcoin wallet where you hold the keys. Simply sign up to Bitvice, link your bank account securely, and buy Bitcoin in seconds. Visit bitvice.io and begin your journey in buying and securing this crypto called Bitcoin. And there's a link in the description if you want to click that as well. And thank you again, Bitvice, for sponsoring the show for so long. I really appreciate it. Vingel says, I'm actually making dinner now. Good. Make your own dinner. And don't just make it a microwave dinner. If it is tonight a microwave dinner, make a challenge. Next time you're going to make something with some ingredients, follow a recipe. It's really just a nice habit to start building up, and nice practical knowledge to know. I mean, you need to be able to make food no matter who you are. Hamilton Klaasse sê goeienaand, ek braai 'n paar skaapstertjies hier op die plaas, groete uit die Weskus. Yes, Hamilton, daai klink moer lekker. Ek het baie lank klaar skaapstertjies gehad. When I grew up in the Western Cape, that was actually something we always ate on the farm, the sheep tails. It's a nostalgic thing to think about. Sideliner Opinion says, you must read more books. Social media has robbed me of some valuable reading time. Yes, that's a very good point. There's a lot of books that I, on this wooden bookshelf, that I still need to read. And on that one that you can't see. Arden says, rise and rise again until the lambs become lions. Sideline Opinion says, ironically, they call it social media, should have been called anti-social media. Arden Party says something that I can't endorse enough. He says, if you like to cook, don't be afraid to experiment. Yes, if you're still a little, this would be my advice. If you're still a little bit unsure, your instincts aren't honed yet, you can start off with recipes, but trust me, you'll soon enough start picking up on what works, what doesn't work, and then you start doing things on your own, and then it starts getting really interesting and very good. Bingle says, I haven't used the microwave since I moved out from my parents. Based. Absolutely ridiculously based. Bingle says, I really should diversify what I eat, though. That's good advice. You should self-advice. You should absolutely. Crystal Smith's posts a little bit of a boomerism, but it's definitely true. Instead of Facebook, put your face in a book. All right. Well, guys, that is tonight's stream. I just wanted to talk about this topic that me and my friends are talking about in person. I thought, well, maybe I should share this with more people, and maybe even if I inspire just one person to do a bit more in the real world outside, if I inspire one person to turn off the computer and go do something outside or in person with friends, then it would have been a major success. So thank you very much for everyone that tuned in. Thank you for all your comments and your excellent questions. A lot of them very funny. And yeah, if you're new to this channel and you like this type of content, you can subscribe and you can leave a like. That helps out the show. You can also, like I said, join my Telegram channel. There's a link in the description to be updated on what's going on in South Africa and on this channel. And then yeah, you can tune in next week when I do another show. And yeah, I hope you have an excellent evening, excellent week ahead. Flight, my story is uit. This has been Adams van Zyl. Cheers, guys. Have a good one, and God bless.